All right, we are live. Should see some numbers popping up and some people jumping in here pretty quick. But in the meantime, let's run right into it. My name is Zach Thoren, and I am with New Realm Brewing Company. I am our Senior Brand Experience Manager. And I am here with Brian Powell of REI here in Atlanta. Of course, REI is everywhere, but Brian, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do at REI?
Sure. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Brian, and I do work for REI. I work for local brand engagement and impact, and basically run all our events and coordinate all of our local marketing for all of our stores, work with nonprofits and things like that. Like Zach, I've been doing a lot of virtual events with REI as we've pivoted because of COVID. But I'm super excited to be here tonight. We've done a lot of stuff with New Realm over the last couple of years, and I am a big fan of New Realm beer, so that's another plus. So super glad to be on the call tonight.
Absolutely. Cheers to that. Thank you for being here. And thank you to the, what do we have? 33 on live here with us. So thank you guys for tuning in. And we'll jump in real quick here. So just to frame up, why we're here, we have been on this quest to find Bigfoot this year. And what started off as just kind of a crazy idea has turned into a lot of different things. And, we built a 7-foot tall bar, giant bar, and a 6-foot tall bar stool, put that thing out in the woods, tried to lure Bigfoot out of hiding using our Hazy Like a Fox IPA. Earlier this year, we did a 24-hour live stream. We had a session on Tuesday with 3 paranormal and Bigfoot and investigator and explorer, researcher, experiencer types. That was a really good conversation, and that brings us here, right now, with Brian and with REI talking about how to bug out like Bigfoot. We wanted to find a way to encourage people to get out there themselves, and of course take a beer with them, take 10 beers with them, take 12 beers with them. Of course, we love to get out, and we know that that's something that you guys at REI support, of course, and we love what you guys do on Black Friday, and wanted to sort of frame that up for you, nice and easy for, what you guys are doing with Opt Outside this year.
Sure, absolutely. First of all, I have to say that you might have chosen the wrong beer to lure out Bigfoot. I think I would have gone with the Hoplandia, like the double IPA. I think Sasquatch would have gone for that. That's just my opinion. I mean...
We can always send that bar back out there. That's no problem.
Anyways, well, yeah, super excited. For the last 5 years, REI has given every single staff, whether it's headquarters in Washington or our store staff, Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving off, to go outside and to hang out. And it's, we call it Opt Outside. We're doing that instead of going shopping. All our stores are closed on Black Friday. And I remember 5 years ago when they did that, how much it meant to me and how cool it was. And then our commitment to getting people outdoors and starts with our own staff. And it was awfully big risk too, because it's the day after Thanksgiving. It's Black Friday because that's when retail stores go in the black for the year. And we're going to shut the stores down and really be committed to being outdoors. So, I would just encourage everyone out there to do that on Black Friday. Put that day aside. Hopefully you have the day off, go out for a hike. If you're in the South, maybe you can go out for a paddle, go out for a mountain bike ride. If you're in the city or here in Atlanta, get on the Beltline and just be outdoors. And, with COVID, the last 7 or 8 months, people have been getting outdoors more. And so, we want to keep encouraging people to do that and to practice social distancing when they do go outdoors. And, for me, I love going outdoors for solitude. Some people like to do it for a community, but whatever you do, I would just ask everyone to join us on that day, on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, and go do something outside.
Yeah, absolutely. And we love that. And just in my notes here, I wanted to sort of just touch on what sort of the outside and the outdoors means to each of us. And I think you summed it up succinctly, but to sort of echo that, it's really important to us. We're working with organizations here in Georgia and in Virginia Beach. Actually, just had a really great meeting with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation with water conservation in Virginia today, and planning some cleanups between the Beltline and Chesapeake Bay, and some fundraising activities around all of those things. So, personally, I love getting outside and packing a cooler full of beer and gear and all the things, and I too kind of do that for solitude. It's especially living in Atlanta here. Getting out of the city is an absolute necessity sometimes, especially during the COVID craziness. So, it's important to us, and we're pet people, we're outdoor people, we're
Sure.
all those things. So, we totally align with you guys on that.
Yeah, I do like the solitude of getting outdoors, and I live up in a little bit farther up north of Atlanta, and there's a place called Sawney Mountain that I get to a lot. And I get out there and I hike for 30 minutes, 2 hours, whatever. And it's great. But in the time of COVID, it's almost a necessity if we are going to be social that we do it outdoors. Just because, especially right now with the, infection rates are climbing, and, they're really, telling everybody to, if you're going to be with other people, do it outdoors. And so, excuse me, that's the safe thing to do, but it's a great thing to do, even if it's out on the patio at New Realm. But it's it's just so much easier and safer to do that. So I want to mention one more thing too. We've really been pushing Opt Outside, but we're also pushing out Recreate Responsibly. And Recreate Responsibly is just kind of in a response to COVID, how to be outdoors and be safe. And a lot of these places, like for instance, I just mentioned Sawney Mountain. Because people are going outdoors and hiking and doing things they really don't normally do. Usually go to movie theaters, maybe they play video games. I don't know. But more people are going out. And so we really need to try to educate people that maybe haven't been outdoors a lot, or, maybe it's their first time doing things, on how to take care of the outdoors. And trails I hate to say they're trash, but they're very heavily used. And they need a lot of love, and we need to take care of those places. So definitely check out recreateresponsibly.org for just some different things on what you should know about being safe outdoors and protecting the outdoors.
I'm going to drop that right into the comments.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Cool. So, without any further ado, we want to, first of all, thanks, Jeffrey. Jeffrey was actually on our session on Tuesday, and I love that idea of, Green Friday, getting out. I love that.
Yeah.
So, I think we'll dig right in here. Let's see. Let's hear some about how to bug out like Bigfoot. I mean, that's why we're all here. So I'm going to toss this up on screen and kind of get out of your way here.
Yeah, this whole thing has been really fun, which I've been doing with Bigfoot. And if you think about the history of Bigfoot, the legend of Bigfoot, if Bigfoot exists, Bigfoot is smart, intelligent as a species, but obviously doesn't want to be found. Wants to get outdoors. And I really like the idea of bugging out like Bigfoot, because certainly if Bigfoot exists, he or she or whatever wants to be solitary and knows how to live off the land and all that stuff. So I put together a PowerPoint of just what to do when you go outdoors. It may be that you're going out on a day hike. It may be that you're doing a backpacking trip, or maybe that you're looking to discover Bigfoot and get out there. So put a few things together. Let's go to actually I'm running the slideshow, so let me put this up. First of all, we talk about some safety issues, and we've put together what we call the 10 essentials. And the 10 essentials are basically the 10 items whenever you get off the path and get on dirt, whether it's just an inner city hike, an overnight backpacking trip in the Smokies, or whatever. There are 10 essentials that you definitely need to have with you at all times. First of all is navigation. So wherever you're going, if it's Sweetwater Creek State Park or the Appalachian Trail, you need to be able to know where you're going and how you're going to get back. So navigation could be something as simple as a compass. It could be as simple as just a map or GPS. If you want to get really involved, or even GPS with a phone. I have a Garmin 5. I'm sorry, with a phone, with a watch, Garmin 5, and I can have I can see where I am on my watch now, and phone as well. Phone can be a good thing for use for navigation too. But you also, as you're probably aware, if you're out in the wilderness, you may not have cell coverage. So maps, compass, things like that, that's perfect for navigation. Next would be sun protection. Whether it's sunproof clothing or sunscreen or sunglasses, things like that you would never expect, especially as you're hiking. If you're getting above the tree line, you don't have a whole lot of that on the East Coast, but you don't think about the farther up, the closer to the sun you are, and you may need sun protection. Also, too, you think of a cloudy day, it's like, oh, it's no big deal, but you're going to get that sun, just as strong or even stronger on those cloudy days, where you're going to need sun protection as well. So sun protection is very, very important, and definitely one of our 10 essentials. Insulation, excuse me. Insulation is very important. Check the weather before you go, but you never know, too, once you get into the wilderness, what the temperature is going to be like. It might be nice and sunny, but you get in the shade, it could be cool. Also, too, we'd hate for this ever to happen, but you could be stuck in the dark. Maybe it's, you're hiking after work and you forget that a daylight savings time just happened, and next thing you know, it's really dark. You start to get cold. Just bring an extra layer of something, an extra jacket, a fleece, or something like that, that can kind of help you in case it starts to get cold. Number 4 is illumination. That's just in case you get caught after dark too. Just a simple flashlight or a headlamp. Headlamps are great. I don't know what people did before headlamps. I think they're great. And so some sort of illumination is very important. Of course, first aid supplies, you don't think about it, but even if you're doing a simple hike, local hike, you fall, you trip, whatever, you got some scratches, poison ivy, there's all kinds of things. Just buy a little first aid pack, or if you're going to go on a longer backpacking trip, maybe you want to get a large first aid pack. Number 6, fire. So some sort of, and this goes along with being caught after dark or being caught in cold, and weather can change in a minute sometimes, even in Georgia. Certainly different other parts of the country, it can be more severe. But if you have some matches or some sort of lighter, something like that, that is definitely part of our 10 essentials. Repair kit or tools. So that could be a lot of things. In this slideshow, you see that that multi-tool Leatherman, which are a huge hit in our stores, but it's just could be a pocket knife, could be something just to help you. Also, too, even like duct tape. You never know when you have a backpack strap that breaks. Maybe you can use duct tape to fix it. What I like to do is I don't have an Nalgene water bottle with me, but right now. But you can wrap duct tape around the bottle. Here's my mason jar, but wrap it around the bottle, and you have basically a little roll of duct tape. It's a nice way to carry that without taking up a whole lot of space. So it's some type of repair kit or tools. Nutrition, just extra food. Sometimes the hike is a little bit more difficult. Sometimes you just aren't expecting to be hungry because you just ate, but you really burn a lot of calories. And so bringing some extra food on your trip, on your hike, or whatever you're doing is very important. Hydration, also very important. We talked about the Nalgene bottles, maybe a Camelback water backpack, any type of water really to take with you. And if you want to take it a step further, you could take some Camelback or Noon tablets, which kind of help give you energy and give you those electrolytes without the sugar. That can be really cool too, and something very helpful. And last but not least, we have emergency shelter. And so what I'm talking about like that is like an emergency blanket or emergency bivvy or emergency poncho, something that in case something goes bad, you have that to keep you warm and safe from the elements. If you want to know what I'm talking about, if you've ever been to a marathon or seen pictures of marathon, usually marathons are running colder weather because you build up so much heat. And at the end of the race, looks like they throw on this foil blanket. It's a shiny. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. That's usually the material that they're made of. That material helps keep you warm. So that's that's our 10 essentials. Very important. And all this stuff, of course, you can buy around or buy at REI. I like that what Dan just put in there, put a deck tip around an Nalgene bottle, but also around a hiking staff or hiking poles. So that's a good call out, Dan. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Dan.
All right. A little bit of trip planning. Just think about who's in your group, where are you going, what you'll be doing when you'll be back. You just let people know where you're going. First of all, don't just kind of jump out there. Just even if it's just like a quick text to your partner or a spouse or a friend, just to let them know where you're going. Think about all those things, and then on the right side of the screen, we see outdoor ethics. Plan ahead and prepare. Check the weather. Like I said, let someone know where you're going. Also know the rules of the place you're going. You may be going to a state park. It may have different rules than like the state, whether it's a national forest or whatever you're in. So plan ahead and prepare. Travel and camp on durable surfaces. Very important as well. Don't go off the trail. The trail's there for a reason. We don't want to, cause any damage to our environment, to nature that we're hiking in or visiting. Disposing of waste properly. If you have any kind of trash, even including banana peels, things like that, people think, oh, it's biodegradable, I'll just throw it on the ground. No, take that out with you. If you're backpacking or camping, you got to bury your poop. Always real important, Zach, that you bury your poop in the proper place. You want to at least get a foot deep on that when you do it. So I got to tell a really quick story. I wasn't planning on doing this, but first time I went backpacking with my son when he was 4 years old, we were up near Tallulah Falls, and we did that. He had to poop in the woods for the first time, and funniest moment of my life, I dug the hole for him, and he goes, "Turn around, Daddy." I was all right. So he pooped it, and he goes, "Daddy, how do I flush?" And yeah, it's one of the funnier moments with my son, and I love telling that story. So anyways, remember that, dispose of waste properly. Actually, if you're above the tree line, they say that you should also actually carry your poop out, which is you got to do it, but yeah, it's rough.
That would be rough.
Yeah, leave what you find. There's a lot of, even recently, there's this big thing where people want to stack rocks near rivers, and it's just not good for the environment. The animals that are living in in those environments, they're using that for a purpose. Don't take anything out. Keep nature the way you find it. Minimize campfire impacts. Man, with all these campfires we've had this past fall in California and Colorado, that's the most important thing. Never leave a fire going. If it's smoking, make sure it's not smoking. I can't stress that enough. Respect wildlife. On your search for Bigfoot, Bigfoot wants to be left alone. Leave him alone. Most animals want to be alone and not harassed. And of course, be considerate of other visitors. I always make it a point to, whenever I'm hiking or whatever, and I see someone else, I acknowledge them. If they stop for any reason, I even say, or make sure they're okay. We just want to protect each other and look out for each other. So being considerate of other visitors and just being kind to your fellow man is really important.
Absolutely.
All right.
I agree with Tom here. And then I've also got, I've got a quick one from Mike, and I just want to address this. I spent some time at the Bigfoot Expedition Museum in North Georgia. Mm-hmm. That museum has what is a cast of a butt print from Bigfoot. And now that we're talking about cat holes and all of that fun stuff, Mike asks for proper waste disposal. Exactly how large a cat hole does Bigfoot have to dig? And I would say probably a pretty big one. Having seen the butt print of the Bigfoot, I would venture a guess that it needs to be a pretty big hole, Mike. Maybe deeper than 12 inches.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, we could make jokes about that one all day. All right, moving along. What do you want to wear when you're out there? So, if you don't remember anything from this entire presentation, remember this. If you go to a store, if you're doing anything active outside, cotton is rotten. All right. You do not want to wear cotton. Cotton may be kind of comfortable and maybe it breathes, but if cotton gets wet, it stays wet. Okay. What you're looking for is you want to use some sort of synthetic material or merino wool. Synthetic material is great. It can get a bit stinky, and even after you wash it. But it's very important that you have something like synthetic or merino wool, which is not the wool you think of. You think of your dad's, wool socks or big wool sweater. It's not itchy. It's actually very, very comfortable. Matter of fact, I wear merino socks almost every day. But you want to keep that moisture away from you, and it wicks away the moisture, and the moisture dries up. And that's very helpful, in your hiking, whether it's your socks or your shirt. So, excuse me, depending on how cold it is, you want to have a base layer. And as you can see, the base layer is a wicking, purpose of it is to wick. And so it's, people think of base layers and so what's a base layer? It's basically like long johns is what we used to call them 20 years ago. But it's usually pretty tight to your skin. And so you may have a base layer, a thin base layer merino wool that's you're wearing as a shirt underneath. It's touching your skin. And then some, basically a base layer pant that's very tight. Not super tight, but something that's going to help with controlling the moisture. We call it moisture management. So some sort of merino wool, some sort of synthetic. And this is obviously, as I write here, you want to wear layers based on your activity level and the weather. One of the things that, if you're outside on a hot day, obviously you're just going to be wearing a pair of shorts and a shirt. If it's, doing a night hike like tonight, you're probably going to want some base layers. And as I point here, you got your middle layer of warmth. So we got a Patagonia fleece there. Fleece is a great material. It's a synthetic material that's good for kind of a mid layer for warmth. Also, you can get like people call them puffy jackets, whether it's a vest or a long sleeve. I love the vest because really you want to keep your core warm more than anything. And the two types of material is you can either have down or another synthetic type of fill. Both are great. Down is great because it's very packable and very light, but you don't want to get it wet. Synthetic is great because even if synthetic fill in a jacket gets wet, it's still going to keep you warm, which is a nice addition. And then, of course, you use some sort of outer shell, a layer, waterproof layer for rain and wind. Something like Gore-Tex has kind of been the industry standard for many years, but there's been they lost they didn't lose it, but their patent, Gore-Tex's patent expired, I don't know, a dozen years ago or something like that. And so people have had their own technology now, like Event. Event is a great waterproof material. And how it works, you could put on a garbage bag and it's going to protect you from the water, but you're going to be so hot in there, you're going to be soaked anyway from sweat. And so these materials like Gore-Tex, they keep the water out, but they also allow moisture to be released from the jacket. And the best way I can explain it to everyone is that it's like your skin. You release moisture, sweat from your skin, but your skin does not allow water in. And this great technology is basically waterproof breathable. It's not as breathable as nothing, but it's certainly more breathable than something like just a layer of plastic. So some sort of outer shell with Gore-Tex or Event is great to protect you from wind and protect you from the elements, whether it's pouring down rain or even snowing. And then go ahead, some questions.
Oh, I was just going to interject for a second in that, I got into backpacking probably 8 years ago, and I grew up way back when on a small kind of rundown farm in Ohio, and we did not have proper gear for Ohio weather in any way.
Sure.
You sweat, and if you got covered, you got covered, and what have you. I did not realize that you needed to do, a special kind of wash for that outer layer to maintain those membranes, because they get dirty, they build up, the pores and what have you. So I don't know if there's anything you can add about that, but even if you have a layer and it's a few years old, be mindful of that.
Yeah, if you have a Gore-Tex or some sort of waterproof, breathable material, you don't want to use regular laundry detergent. There's a few different brands. The one that sticks in my mind is Nick Wax, and we sell 2 or 3 different brands in the store and online at REI that's specially made to basically imagine your pores getting blocked. So you want to use something specially to wash your jacket to make that jacket breathable again. Because after a while, when it does get dirty, it'll lose its breathability and you lose its effectiveness. So definitely seek out Nick Wax or another brand to wash your shells. And plus, those shells are expensive. Like the lower end jackets, maybe run with its waterproof breathable, maybe run $120, and then you jump up. I think this jacket, this blue one that you're seeing on the slide, is Arc'teryx, and it could be up to $500. So you want to take care of those expensive items that help you get outdoors. Nick wax or another type of wash that helps with the breathability and restores that breathability to your coats is very important. But that's a good call out. The other thing I was going to mention, just have gloves, have a hat. A lot of heat, if you're trying to stay warm, a lot of heat can be released through your head if you're not wearing some sort of hat. And once again, you want to use some sort of smart wool or synthetic that's going to also be breathable at the same time, or it's also going to help with the moisture management. So good pair of gloves. Also gloves, there are gloves and hats, stocking hats or skull caps that have waterproofness, or more importantly, especially for a hat, is a windproof material. So you do have some Gore-Tex gloves and Gore-Tex hats and even hats and things like that. So, all right, that is clothing. Any questions? I haven't seen any questions pop up, Zach. If you see any, just holler them out.
Yeah. So not really any that I want to pop up here right now.
All right. We're talking a little bit about footwear. Put a few things up there. I'm going to start with the socks. Once again, we're going to talk about no cotton, especially with socks. You want the merino wool or synthetic to pull the moisture away from your feet. When your foot gets wet, that's when you're going to start getting blisters and start being uncomfortable. Plus, your foot can start to get cold if it stays wet. And so having a synthetic or a wool sock will help with that. Another cool thing people don't think about is liner socks. Liner socks are basically a very, very thin, tight sock that you put on under your hiking sock that's a little thicker. And the reason why you do that, you have that tight, thin merino or synthetic sock on, and then you put that other sock on top of it, and it helps with the friction, because a lot of the times the way blisters happen is that your foot, your bare foot and your sock will rub with the shoe, and that'll cause the blister. And what happens when you're wearing that liner sock, the friction happens between the two socks as opposed to the sock and the skin. So if you have problems with blisters and have a problem with having really hot, wet feet, I highly recommend using liner socks with your hiking socks. With boots, these days, whether they're hiking or backpacking, there's such a, it used to be, okay, you've got your trail running shoe if you trail run. You've got kind of your lightweight mid-hiking boot for, your hour or two hikes. And you have these big, beefy solos like you see on the screen here for backpacking with a big sole and very heavy. These days, people will hike the entire Appalachian Trail in a pair of trail runners. It's really about personal preference. You may want to have it waterproof. You may not, depending on where you're going and what you're doing. I usually, if I'm going outside and outdoors, I'm going to have a Gore-Tex, some sort of waterproof shoe, whether it's a hiking shoe or, a big hiking boot, something with a very good sole. And people ask me all the time, it's like, what do you recommend for shoes? And it's really different from everybody. I mean, it really is. Everything we sell at REI is, super high quality. We've got a great return policy of, you can walk around the store and for 4 hours in a pair of hiking shoes and they may feel good, but you get on the trail and after about 4 miles, they're killing your feet. So you never know. So we have a really good return policy. You can return stuff up to a year, even on things like hiking boots for that reason. But go into the store, try something on, make sure it fits as well as can. Sizing is so different, not even just between brands, but even within brands. One pair of boots, a mid-hiking boot and a big backpacking boot in the same brand could fit extremely differently. Plus there's widths and things like that. So when I first started with REI over 10 years ago, I worked in footwear, and it's a lot of fun, and you just really have to help people, how does this fit? And, talk to people about as they're walking, what are they feeling? And so I just highly recommend, if you're going to get some good hiking boots, go into the store, try them on, and we have amazing sales specialists that can help you with that. I do want to mention Gators. Gators are one of my favorite piece of outdoor equipment. I used to live up in the New York area, and I don't get to use Gators as much down here, but they're basically something that goes over your boot and pants to keep Sometimes dirt. If you're out west, you might have a smaller pair of Gators, keeps the dirt out of your shoe. More often than not, it's if you're out in the snow. And of course, we don't get that a whole lot here. But anytime it snowed up in the Northeast, I'd go snowshoeing or something like that. I love putting the Gators on. They just kind of Velcro around your leg and they loop around your boot, and it keeps all the snow out. And those are usually waterproof too, so that can be an option as well. All right.
I'm building my Christmas list as we're doing.
Are you doing some? You getting out in any snow anytime soon, or Colorado or anything like that, Zach?
It snowed enough in Ohio, and who knows if we'll make it up there this holiday season with the world the way it is. But yeah, I had a trip to Colorado actually planned and pushed into next year. So
yeah,
it's on the list.
Well, I love snow, and I grew up in Texas. I've been around a lot. I've been all over the place, but when I moved to the Northeast, I really learned to appreciate snow and snowshoeing. And I love Gators. So let's move along. If you have any questions, even about any of the stuff we've talked about, please ask the questions, and we can either jump in the middle of something else or get to them in the end. All right, what's next? All right, so we're going to go into a little bit of backpacking, doing a little bit more than a day hike. If you're doing overnights, and I'm sure a lot of people on this that are watching this have camped before, and car camping is great, but there's nothing quite like putting stuff in a backpack and going into the woods and spending the night. It's just a whole different experience. For one thing, I don't sleep very well when I car camp because it's camping, and I love camping, but it's not like your bed. The great thing about backpacking is that usually when it's time to sleep at night, you're so exhausted from the day, you can sleep like an angel. So anyways, there's tons of different backpacks. REI, our own brand, has some great backpacks. There's Osprey and Gregory, you can see here. Fit is very important, and also the capacity. So usually an overnight backpacking backpack is going to be anywhere from 50 liters up to around 80. And the 80, of course, is going to do this really extra long trip, a week long or more. If you can see on this backpack on the left, it's called the Crest Trail 70. And that's just, 70 liters. The name of the backpack usually is going to have a number on it. And so that number is basically saying how many liters, and it's basically the size. Also, backpacks are based on torso, so you really do need to get fitted. Small, medium, or large. You may be like 6'4", so you're thinking, oh, I probably need to get the large. Well, maybe not. Maybe you've got super long legs and a real short torso. You may need a medium. So when you're picking out a backpack, definitely go into a store. The camping experts at REI are great. We have different ways you can try it on. We'll get these backpacks and fill them full of items that you can kind of get an idea of what it's like to have that weight and how it carries on your hips and on your shoulders. There's all kinds of, these days, these things are so high tech. There's so many cool little trinkets and pockets and things like that. So, those are my two words of wisdom as far as a backpack is concerned for an overnight trip.
Yeah, it's amazing that the difference that the REI staff is able to provide when trying these things on. Honestly, I had an Amazon special when I first got into backpacking, and then I upgraded to the Osprey at some point. And that process of the actual weighted like beanbag sacks put onto the bag and fitting properly and hunkering the thing down on you is incredibly valuable. And it's not like hopping online. And of course, there's the return policy. You can hop online and try one or whatever, but I would absolutely encourage people to go in store, which actually is a perfect setup for Evan's question.
Evan says, I just read this question, and I don't know. I really don't know, because I don't actually work in the retail side of things right now, and that's a good question. I will say this about REI. We closed our stores earlier than almost everybody did back when the pandemic started. We opened up with more precautions than anybody. We're extremely safe. And so whatever that policy is and whatever our store policies are that I've seen, because I've been in stores, we do whatever we can to make sure to keep everyone safe. So I can say that much. Thanks for the question. Let's move to the next slide. We're going to talk about a little bit about shelter, tents, things like that. Not just things like that. Straight up tents is what we're talking about when we talk about shelters. When you're picking one out, kind of like the backpack, they're designed for a specific amount of people. So if you're looking at a Half Dome 2, which is an REI brand backpack, it's for 2 people. If it's a Half Dome 1, it's built for 1 person. Now, that being said, I'm a pretty big guy, and I use a Half Dome 2 just for solo backpack. So a lot of it's too is when you buy every backpack, each backpack will have all the dimensions, so you can determine, based on how long it is, based how tall you are, based how wide it is. Those things are important. Also, you want to consider the weight of the tent. So just like anything else, the better the tent. I'm sorry, the more expensive it's going to be, but it's also going to be lighter. So if you're doing there's all these ultralight backpackers that are doing these, really long trips. They want to move fast, and they're, buying tents that are a lot lighter. Something like a Half Dome 2 is pretty heavy. You're looking at 4.5, 5 pounds, where you could get some lighter backpacks for like 1.5 pounds, which when all the weight adds up, it really does make a difference. And tents are one of the heavier items when you're backpacking. So those are things to be considered. Also, ease of setup. You can go into a store and set one up before you take it home. Also, I recommend too, just as a side note, if you do buy your tent, setting it up at home before you take it on the trail, that's not a good time to decide, well, this is too hard to set up, or if it's missing a pole or something like that. Other things to consider in tents, number of doors. These days, for most 2 or 3 or 4 person backpacking tents, you're going to have a door on each side, so that if you have to get up and dig that hole in the middle of the night, you don't have to crawl over your mate or whoever you're backpacking with. Having 2 doors is kind of, it's almost like vans. I remember growing up, you have the vans with 1 door on one side, and somewhere along the way they're like, hey, let's build a van with doors on both sides. Same type of deal with tents here. We usually have a couple doors, and then of course vestibule and storage. Vestibule is usually like a rain fly. You have your rain fly. If you look at that picture there, the ends are the vestibule. So you'll have the main tent part, and then the vestibule is basically not inside the tent. It basically kind of covers the ground, but that's where because you don't have a whole lot of room in your tent, that's where your backpack goes and things like that. You put your dirty shoes out there as well. They're on the ground, but they're being protected from the elements by that vestibule that's usually part of the rain fly. All right. How are we doing on time?
I was going to call out Sue here. She's touching on Evan's question.
Oh, yeah. I just got fitted for a new backpack last week. We both wore masks and it went well. Great. Yeah. And I will say, I do know that all the stores it's mandatory for, of course, all the staff to wear a mask, but everyone who enters the store needs to wear a mask covering their mouth and nose. Anyways, I won't go off on the people that don't cover their nose. It just seems kind of pointless. But yeah, we put a lot of safety protocols in place. So thanks for that call out.
Yeah, same on the New Realm side.
Yeah. You forgot a way to drink beer with the mask on.
It doesn't work that well. Tried it. You can do it, but then you're just breathing in beer for a little while.
Some sort of straw, Oh, man. All right. Let's talk a little about sleep systems. So we'll talk about sleep pads. We'll talk about sleeping bags. Got a few different sleeping bags here. We've got the mummy bag on the right. We've got a double sleeping bag. If it's you and your spouse or partner, y'all can be in there together. And then you've got the bigger sleeping bag for bigger people like me. I love having a big sleeping bag. We talked about this already with clothing, down or synthetic. Down is great because it's very packable. It's a lot lighter than synthetic. And that's really, really important for a lot of people to stay as light as possible. And then you've got your synthetic that if it gets wet, it'll still keep you warm. It's not as packable. It's still great material. These days, though, that with down and with synthetic materials, they've revolutionized. It's a technology thing again. They have made synthetic fill materials for sleeping bags to replicate down, so it's a little bit lighter. Of course, it's going to be more expensive, and they have found a way to make down not deteriorate or it not be an issue if it gets wet by coating the feathers and the down feathers with a certain specific coating. So there's just a lot of great technology out there when it comes to sleeping bag. But like I said, synthetic is usually a little heavier. Down is, it's not, it's not neither are never necessarily warmer. That's not even what it's based on with the warmth. Down is also more compactable. And when you're backpacking, you want to also save as much space as possible. So that down is important. I'll mention something about mummy bags too. The less air you have in your bag, the warmer it will be for you. Okay. So you want to have, that's the reason there's mummy bags, so that sleeping bag will just basically contour to your body and keep you warmer. So that's why it's like that. Want to try to keep as much air out as possible. Also too, they're rated, and they'll have a number on them. So if you're looking at a sleeping bag and it's at the end of it, it says 20 or 35, that is kind of the temperature that they're designed for. So it's 20 degree. If it's a sleeping bag that has 20 on the end of it, it's going to keep you warm up to 20 degrees. Now, a couple of things about that, or if it's 40, it's going to keep you warm up to when it's up to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So a couple of things about that. Sleeping bags are designed for men and for women. And so the rating is different based on whether you're a male or female. The female sleeping bags are usually designed to a little bit warmer because women have a tendency to get colder. So, if you're looking at if you're a woman looking at a sleeping bag made for a male and it says 40, it may not keep you warm up to 40. Also, too, that number is, a lot of variations can depend on that. A big guy like me, I'm going to stay warmer. So keep those things in mind. But these ratings are based on the average person, whether it's male or female, wearing a base layer, okay, with legs, socks, and a shirt, base layer, and sleeping on the ground with an air pad, because air pads or a sleeping pad, because sleeping pads actually provide insulation as well. So if you're in a hammock and you're sleeping in a sleeping bag that's rated at 40, it may not keep you warm. It may be, maybe you need something a little bit less. So you're a hammock sleeper?
Yeah. I have been since I started backpacking, and first couple of trips were okay. I think the third or fourth, it got miserably cold, and I don't remember where we were in the state of Virginia, but we were up in the mountains, and I think we were one of the highest peaks. We had the storm roll through, and didn't have a underquilt. Yeah, underquilt.
Yeah.
I think I had like a 30-degree sleeping bag, a really nice one, but just up in the air like that with the wind whipping was nowhere near enough.
Yeah. If you are hammocking, that's we could do 20 minutes on hammocking probably. The rules don't always apply for hammocking, and also too, like if you look at the sleeping bag on the left, you can see a sleeping pad underneath it. A lot of sleeping bags these days, Big Agnes, I think, was the first company to do this. But instead of having insulation on the bottom, most sleeping bags have the insulation on the top and the bottom of the sleeping bag. They don't have any insulation. What they have instead is a sleeve. And there's a specific sleeping pad that will fit inside that sleeve for a couple reasons. It cuts down on the weight of the sleeping bag, but also if you put your sleeping pad in there, it doesn't move around. If you've ever slept on a sleeping pad at night on a tent, you slip or slide and slide off of them at night and things like that. That's great having that sleeping pad in the sleeve. You can't slide around. You're going to stay on it as long as you're in a sleeping bag. And that's been really popular too with people that hammock, because some people will actually have a sleeping pad, put a sleeping pad in their hammock as well, because that sleeping pad does add extra warmth.
Yeah,
so
been there.
Looking at sleeping pads on the right, there's a few different types. There's self-inflating, there's straight up air pad, and closed cell foam. Closed cell foam has become a lot popular later, a little bit more popular of late. It's just a very soft material. I don't really know what to compare it to if you haven't. It's like an egg crate type of look to it and feel a little bit. Super lightweight. And then self-inflating usually is a combination of air and cushioning, and it'll kind of inflate on its own. And then air pads usually have to blow up, and it's straight air. The air pads are great because they are super light. Usually, a lot of times, the sleeping pads that are designed just to hold air are kind of noisy. And so when you're moving around at night, especially if you're backpacking with other people, it's like you just hear that noise of moving around on that sleeping pad. I usually like to use a self-inflating whenever possible, but the lightness of the air pad is very important. Looks like we've got a comment. What does it say? It says if you lay a mylar blanket under the sleeping pad, it will keep you warmer, prevents the ground temperature from penetrating your sleeping bag. That's a great call out. Yeah, people don't think about the ground being cold, but the sleeping pad is not just there to give you comfort. It is there to give you warmth. And actually, they are sleeping pads are rated by warmth. Some have extra warmth to them. And so whenever you're looking at a sleeping pad, I can't believe I forgot this, but I think it's called R rating. And so based on the R rating, it'll basically tell you which sleeping pad is going to keep you warmer at night. Jared says winter camping equals 2 sleeping bags. I've done, when I lived up in the Northeast, I've done some actually winter snowshoe backpacking up in the Adirondacks, and it sounds crazy, but it's absolutely wonderful snowshoeing up into these Adirondack peaks, which are the northern part of the Appalachians, and you snowshoe up, or some people will cross country ski and set up their tent on the snow and have these 10-degree sleeping bags, and yeah, it's a lot of fun, and you can stay pretty warm.
I've heard that's a blast.
Yeah, it really is. When talk about having the right materials though, and the right technology and the right products, that's you definitely want to have that. The colder it gets, the worse the weather is, you definitely want to have the right equipment.
Yep.
All right.
Dan here, and then actually we've got a couple here lined up. One more after Dan, who agrees with the sleeping pad and the hammock. That was a game changer for me when I got I don't even remember what brand I have, but I have the I guess like the coffin or whatever it is. It's built for. It's got the wings almost for the hammock.
Yeah.
So it sticks. It doesn't. And it's not a rectangle like that air pad shows there. It's much more like the self-inflating one. Even though mine isn't self-inflating. It's glorious.
Yeah. My issue with sleeping pads has always been because I just super broad shoulders, looks like I'm wearing shoulder pads some of the times, but a lot of sleeping pads can be real narrow, so I have to get the really wide ones too, but having those wings are very helpful.
Sure. One from Sean here, a little brag on you.
Yeah, the REI branded self-inflating pad has been phenomenal. I love to hear that for me in all 4 seasons. Yeah, absolutely.
I know we're nearing the end here, but I don't want to lose Denise or Lindsay here. Denise, just the big gratitude here. Thank you for tuning in, Denise.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, we can touch on this one. Maybe we'll get to this Lindsay yours here in a minute after we touch on Camp Kitchen. Yeah,
Camp Kitchens are actually our last one we're talking about. Usually. There's different ways to cook. This is, kind of generally for, if you're cooking, you bring your pots and little pans, things like that. And you want to have some sort of heat and fire. And there's really kind of 2 types. There's a liquid stove and a gas stove. I use gas a lot. Problem with those gas stove, you can see that canister on the bottom right here, the bottom left, is, once you're done with them, you throw them out. And it's, not the best as far as environmental impact concerned. But it's super easy to use, very lightweight. But also you have to carry, if you're on a long trip, you've got to carry multiple canisters. On the right side, you have a liquid, and you actually put a fuel in there, and you can put white gas in there. And matter of fact, the one on the left is isopropane, isobutane, or propane is usually what's in the type of gas. And, for the liquid one, you can actually put automotive gas in there, or kerosene or white gas, and it can actually help on weight. It can be a little messy, but like I said, there's always payoffs, and there's a couple of stoves that we sell for backpacking that you can actually use both. The one I think about is, I think it's the Whisper Light International made by MSR. I'm pretty sure that's both. I may be wrong on that, but if all else fails, go to rei.com and all the answers will be there, or go into your store. I have a one that's kind of like on the left. It's Jetboil, and Jetboil just heats up water like in 60 seconds. It's great for making coffee. It's great for freeze dried food like Mountain House. I use a lot of people think about a freeze dried food. You don't think it's usually that great, but especially been backpacking after a long day, there's some really good dehydrated food options that we sell. And one of my favorites is the Mountain House biscuits and gravy. You wouldn't think just adding water and making biscuits and gravy would be good, but pretty tasty stuff. So
that one is fantastic. I go for that one in the morning, and then I love the there's a I don't remember, maybe it's Mountain House, but there's a chili mac out there.
Yeah, that's my son loves the chili mac. Like, he'll want to eat it like at home. He's like, "Oh, can we have some of that chili mac?" It's like, all right, I guess, but he absolutely loves it. So yeah, that's definitely.
I have had to stop myself from eating it at home, honestly.
Yeah. Well, and it's great too. Like I said, when you're backpacking, like I mentioned earlier, at the end of the day, you're so tired, you sleep great. And same thing with food. Like, food does not have to be super great. Sometimes it is, but you're so hungry and you burn so many calories. Everything tastes so good.
Yep. Agreed. And Brittany knows what's up. Biscuits and gravy and chili mac are her faves. I like your style, Brittany. And then, so there's a couple more that I wanted to tick through here, but first of all, thank you. I know that's the end of your presentation there.
Sure.
We'll tick through a couple more here, but thank you for putting that all together. And honestly, Lindsay's question here, I feel like we ought to do a follow-up session about camping and hiking with dogs, because I am a proud father of 2 corgis, and even though they have those tiny little legs, they'll go for miles.
Sure.
So to answer Lindsay's questions, then I maybe have a couple of bullet points for her.
Yeah, I've never backpacked with dogs before, and honestly, for if you want to keep them warm at night, it's they obviously make sweaters and things for your dogs. I don't know. I think just make sure they're comfortable. Also, if you want to make sure they're comfortable, if they've never hiked 4 miles into the woods, I wouldn't take them. I would make sure that if you're going to want to make them more comfortable at night, make sure that they're not exhausted when they get there. And so take them on practice hikes and things like that before you go backpacking. I do know I have a friend of mine that sleeps with their dog in their sleeping bag, which is doubly effective because it keeps you warm. But other than that, I just don't have a whole lot on that because I've just never done it.
Yeah, Lindsay, I will bug Brian after this, and we'll set something up where we can answer all those questions, because I want those answers too. I will say that we did a day hike up on the AT. We started at the origin point. Well, I guess we started 4 miles in, and then we hiked to the origin point. What's that? That's Blood Mountain. That's Springer Mountain. One of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the genesis there. So we had done 3, 4, and 6 miles with him. No,
sure.
We did. It was 2, 3, and 5. And anyway, in any case, it was like 8.5, 9 miles that we did with him that day. He was like 9, 10 months, and corgis have these, tiny little legs. But he was a trooper. I mean, he slept the whole 2-hour drive back to Atlanta, but he was ready. So I would say definitely build up to anything bigger, Lindsay, and pack water. I have a bowl. I have a collapsible bowl with a carabiner, and I also have like a little just obviously keeping them hydrated. All the same stuff, I would think goes for them and us. Maybe they don't have to worry about base layers and Gore-Tex and that kind of stuff. But obviously the same sort of fundamentals in my mind. I am no expert, but have done a little bit of it.
Sure. I have a couple more thoughts actually that are kind of random, but they have to do with your sleeping bag and system. Another way to keep warm at night that's helpful, you can actually boil water and put it in your Nalgene bottle and secure it tight and put it in your sleeping bag with you, maybe down at your feet or something like that. And it'll provide a lot of warmth. Even doing like 20 jumping jacks right before you get into your sleeping bag, making sure that you pee before you go into bed. those type of things are so you don't have to get up in the middle of the night. But if you are filled with liquid, your body's going to stay cooler, and it's going to have to work harder to stay warm. Another interesting note, with your clothes, they do get wet sometimes, or they're sweaty, or you get caught in a rainstorm, and you get to the end of the night or the end of the day, and your clothes are wet. You got to put them on the next day, and people will lay them out. Well, more than likely, if you lay them outside on your tent or on a tree branch or something like that, there's going to be moisture in there, and they're going to stay wet. So what I do recommend to people is actually, especially for like their base layers, if they're wet, this doesn't work for cotton, only synthetic and merino, actually put them in your sleeping bag with you, and your body will dry them up within 15 to 30 minutes.
Wow.
So those are a couple of little quick tips I wanted to throw out there.
That's an excellent pro tip. I would have never, ever guessed that.
Yeah.
There's one from Leslie for you, Lindsay, and I guess for me too, bringing a long paracord to attach the dog so they can walk in streams. Yeah. You can also hang out at the campsite and have some room to walk. I think that's great. Doesn't add a whole lot of bulk to you, honestly. Let's see here. Mango Sticky Rice by Mountain House is great.
Never had that one.
Yeah, Mountain Home Biscuits and Gravy is surprisingly delicious. Sean's got us there. Kind of out of order here. Wearing It Cap. You kind of touched on that.
Oh, I know Terry. Hi, Terry.
Hi, Terry. And then let's see here. What do you think about this one? I love that.
Yeah,
I love that hot water analogy, and Dan does too.
All right.
Awesome. I think that's honestly, if anybody else has any other questions here, drop them in. Otherwise, maybe we'll this is a lot of great back and forth from you viewers. So that's awesome. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Brian, for being here. Thank you, REI, for partnering with us and for continuing to partner with us year over year. We're headed into our fourth year as a company, and we're learning a lot, doing a lot, and excited to get back outside and carry these tips with us. So thank you for those.
Yeah, absolutely. I love working with you. I love New Realm Beer. I'm sure we'll do some other things like this in the future.
We'd love that. We'd love that. All right. Well, thank you, Brian, one more time, and thank you everybody for tuning in and for all of your questions and comments and all the love. So we will see you all next time. Have a good night.
Bye, everyone.